Most people think that they have a money problem, but they don't. They've got a thermostat problem, haven't they?
Yes.
So this is what Money River Masters, it's one of the things that Money River Masters is designed to help you with. Because we realize through our own story, which we're going to share with you today, that this unconscious, subconscious, whatever you want to call it, thermostat actually rules the roost when it comes to how much money you earn or how much money you get to keep or what sort of bottom you find at your bank accounts and everything.
Mhm.
So we're going to talk about that today because essentially those numbers reflect what's going on in a few areas. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about the psychology of it, but there's also things like the structures that you put your money through. And there's even natural laws and principles that if you don't understand how they will work against you. If you use them and you understand them, they'll actually work really well for you, won't they?
Equally well.
Yeah, equally. Yeah, it's just as good as having a structure or a budget, because I'm sure we've all been in that aspect of our lives where, I should budget, I should save, I should do this. You may even go and get the app or download a spreadsheet or whatever and start the process. But then for whatever reason, it disappears out the window and it's sort of like, budgets don't work for me or whatever. It's not that they don't work. Of course they work, because it's been repeatedly shown over time that people with budgets get ahead. However, what doesn't work is not understanding the universal laws and principles or your own mindset with it. And you certainly can't rule yourself out on mindset, because it's not about you. You're not special. You're not broken or anything like that. It's just you need to have all three elements working together, don't you?
Sure do. Yeah. The budget's great, but it's not sustainable if you don't have the understanding around these other elements, because it'll come and it'll go. You'll find yourself kind of oscillating with that.
Yeah. So we thought we would start the channel talking about this thermostat, because I think most of us can even relate to it if you think back across your life about how this money thermostat shows up. So for me, my personal experience with money was I've always had this mindset of I can always make money. Like, I don't know why. It's just one of those things and I became quite resourceful. I've had several businesses and I could make a butt ton of money. And the problem was I couldn't keep it for whatever reason. And I seem to have a couple of strategies, and primarily it would be some other person or entity that came in and took my money. That was my victim story. And I was like, all of a sudden the tax department needs $20,000 that I, thought I'd just acquired, and all these sorts of things. Or an unscrupulous person came across my path. Now, that might seem like all these circumstances, and of course I'm powerless to those things. But the interesting thing is that since we've been doing the Money River, and that's been well over 10 years now, none of that's happened ever again, right? So it's a really interesting thing to observe, that as soon as you can see what's going on and you change it, interestingly, the results show up differently as well. Now, also, I've had a minimum on my thermostat, because thermostats go both ways, don't they? When you set the temperature, if it gets too cold, it kicks in the heat, and if it gets too hot, it brings it back down. And for me, I usually hit a threshold around about $10,000 in the negative. Like, I had a credit card, a gold Amex, not Amex, whatever. Anyway, it doesn't matter. A credit card that would go down to about 10 until the bank actually, back in the day, they were able to automatically approve you for extra credit. And at one stage it did go down even further to like negative 13 or 14,000. Fortunately, they've stopped that practice in Australia. You can't just automatically up someone's approval rate. So I think that's a good thing. But yeah, so other than that, I tended to hover around the minus $10,000 mark. So if I hit below that, and even when I did go down to like 12 or 13,000 in that credit card, I very quickly rectified it, because there was something in me that felt, okay, it's okay to be negative 10,000, but it's not okay to be negative 12,000. So that was sort of my bottom limit. And I always sat there going, I wish I could just get rid of that debt. I wish I could. But underneath, it was never going to go anywhere, because I was comfortable in my subconscious with that. And until I shifted that mindset and went, no, that is not happening. We're going to start a new relationship with the bottom level of the thermostat. And eventually I moved it up to 0 and got everything paid down. We were together by that stage. And then have gradually moved it up over time, which has been great because then, money is going to come, money is going to go, it's going to ebb and it's going to flow. And so you might as well use that type of mental thermostat to your advantage, but why not have a nice high bottom, like 20, 30, 40, 50 grand as your minimum, if not more, that you will, once you hit it, you can go back up again from, rather than minus 10, which isn't even that bad really. In Australia, I think the average debt is about 36,000 on credit cards, let alone mortgages and things like that. I'm not even talking about that level of debt. So it's pretty crazy. But also, why would we not want to shift to the thermostat at the upper end where actually, why would we even need a set point there? But if we have to, if our brain works that way and needs that comfort zone, well, let's set it a lot higher than what you've already got it, because you'll notice you get to a certain level. And I noticed for a long time, even in a very busy business that I had, I'd hit 30 or 40 grand and that was it. I couldn't get beyond it. It was like a glass ceiling. It was like, that's it. That's all the business can make for the month. And the business might have needed more than that for the month, but that's all I could see myself making. I kept hitting that ceiling. So that thermostat was a really big one. Yeah.
Funnily enough too, the thermostat there's no rules. Nobody's sitting somewhere deciding who gets to have a high or low thermostat or whatever. We do it to ourselves, and because we don't understand that that's what's going on, we just keep doing it, and we wonder what's going on. When I was, younger, I also felt like I can make money because I can always get a job and I can earn money. I've never had a problem with that, but I definitely had a problem with exceeding my thermostat level, my upper limit. Particularly, and I certainly didn't stay long anywhere, down around the lower limit. I'd always manage to fluctuate in between, sort of thing. But I remember at one stage, and this happened a few times over the years, where I had debt, and even though it was my unconscious self-governed limit. And for me, it was 10,000 too. It must have been back in the day that everyone had $10,000, credit limit or whatever.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know, but mine was around that too. And just because it was self-imposed, it wasn't something I was happy with. I felt constantly sort of stressed about it. I felt constantly under pressure. And like I was kind of working just to pay this damn debt off all the time, and I wasn't getting ahead beyond that point. And what I did find, though, over the years was that at one stage, I implemented the jars system. I had a bunch of different jars that, money for this bill and that bill and whatever would go in. And I really stuck to it, and it worked. It worked to see me have plenty of money for what I needed. And even at one point I got the debt paid off and I thought, job done, I'm good. And now let's go. And it was no time at all before I was back in debt again and then back up to the $10,000 debt, and it was like the experience of it, because I had no awareness that I had anything to do with that and that it was my unconscious sort of, structures and belief system that was governing that and causing it to happen. My experience of it was that, others were involved. There was circumstances outside of me, whether it was bills coming in out of nowhere, big ones, and it's like, oh no, the car needs this or whatever it was. There were things that came in, and every time they seemed super important, like that's a priority. There's no other way of handling that except for putting it back on the credit card again, And this is even if I'd frozen the credit card or got rid of it, It's time to go and get another one.
Do you mean literally frozen?
Yeah,
Like you
sometimes.
put
Yeah,
it in the
put it in
box
there. Yeah.
and you put it in the freezer with the water
Yeah.
if you really want to use it.
Yeah.
I never did it, but I
Break
remember
ice.
hearing about it as a strategy.
Tried everything, and and so I was back on the card again, and back up to the limit again, and just no idea what was going on. But this thermostat awareness made all the difference, because once I understood how that was playing out, once I understood that I actually had a say in it, then I could see things differently. I knew that when I cleared the debt, which eventually, once we came together, we brought our debt together and then we worked together in a structural way because we understood these things. And sure enough, it sorted it out and we've never looked back since. But what I found was that I looked back and I realised that it wasn't external circumstances, it was me every time. And therefore I could see things as they came up and not see them as something that I've got to react to and that I've got to, take measures in relation to outside of my structure. So I just remained within my structure that I'd established. And I worked with, if something came up, all right, sure, we can get that paid off over time, but it's not going to happen immediately at the expense of my structure that I've got in place, and that changed. The structure changed, the result changed, and it changed in a sustainable manner.
Yeah. As soon as we feel some level of powerlessness to our money or our circumstances that are demanding our money or whatever, the thermostat basically shifts down. Like the minimum has to drop, your maximum drops, and you really feel like, oh, I'm losing this money game, and we end up playing the oscillation game, boom and bust, or just keeping your ass scraped along the ground, all these sorts of things. So once you see it, once you realize that your own sense of empowerment, and I don't mean a fake empowerment either, it's like it's well structured, it's well held, that changes everything. When you don't have to just sit there and hope that it figures itself out. It rarely does. To a degree, I think we're pretty lucky. Most humans manage to scrape by somehow. And when you look at the circumstances, sometimes you scratch your head and go, I don't know how we did that or how they did it or whatever. But it's really important to know that the secret is in being empowered and employing a structure and knowing how it works, like the mechanics of it, not to the degree of being an economics expert or anything like that, but just enough to know, one, how things work in your favor or against you, and also how your own mindset does that with you or against you as well.
And these are things that we're already using. We're already employing the things we're talking about, but what we're saying is becoming consciously aware of what they are and then directing them in the direction of what we actually want, because we're using them, but we're just, because we don't know we're using them against ourselves to create more of what we don't want.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, how many times do people use money as a problem-solving orientation? Like, how do I solve that problem? I'll throw money at it. Does it usually work? Not really. It'll work short term, but usually they'll get the same problem come back again. But anyway, we'll go into that deeper with further videos and tutorials along the way. But, one thing to notice is, obviously this is our experience, that once we employed the money river and put the principles in place, things never went back to the way they were. Like, we've not gone below zero. Even when things have been challenging, when there've been some things, it just has not happened. We haven't needed to draw ourselves into any level of debt, let alone the combined 20,000 that we brought to the relationship in the first place. But not only that, we know that this was so powerful, we actually started teaching it to our clients back in, was it about 2020 we started bringing it in?
Yeah.
Just because it was really obvious that some people were hitting this brick wall and we were going, well, we've been there. And it's not really it wasn't our key focus for our coaching, but it became super important because we just knew it was one of those facets that if it could be handled and handled well, then it was one less stress in those people's lives. And so we noticed very quickly, as soon as people took that material, and it's quite simple. It's not, you don't have to study it for a year to get it. It's really simple. Once they started to get it and employ it and put it into place, And there is a bit of an order to it, isn't it? There's a bit of a hierarchy. There's a bit of an understanding of, don't do it in the wrong order. Don't try and take shortcuts, because if you do, it ends up a mess. But other than that, it is simple. And as soon as they started to implement it, things really shifted. And even in those ways that you might consider a bit woo-woo or magical, in that you just notice people will then become more resourceful, or they see opportunities they weren't seeing before, or money just shows up. And this is the really woo-woo part. Money shows up when it's needed. And that's what's super cool about it, because it's repeatable. It's something that we've seen time and time again. And on this channel, we will add more and more of that, well, let's call it evidence to back that up, because it's not just about our story. It's about the story of all the people in our community who have implemented the Money River and have seen some incredible shifts and changes just by applying these basics. Yeah. But to start with, the important thing to realize is that if you're not conscious of it yet, you live within a financial thermostat. And you'll notice some people's thermostats are different to yours. Very, very likely. If you grew up in let's call it a rich household, your energetic or monetary minimum might be, rock bottom is like 20 grand. For some people, that's their maximum. Like 20 grand in the bank is like, oh, there's no way I can get past that. So, we don't even really need to know what the number is, but you'll have an idea of it, won't you? Because you'll see repeatable incidents where it's like, oh, I got to here and then I sunk back down again, or I got, paid off that debt, but then I put it back, I put more debt back on it again or something, it bounced off the bottom. So you'll see that. And so one of the first things that we're going to be talking about and teaching people is about this thermostat concept and the elements that come into play with that. And the Money River is designed to transcend all of it. So you're not a victim to your thermostat, and actually it's dysfunctional to try and look at the bottom figure or the top figure and go, well, let me try and imagine having more money than the bottom and the top. Let me try and imagine being a rich person. Your subconscious isn't stupid. It knows your story. It knows the beliefs and concepts that keep this thermostat in play. Every time you try to shift it by forcing it, you end up making it worse. So let's not do that. Let's commit to not doing that. Yeah.
Well, and it's as simple as following a simple structure, so that one of the side effects of doing so is that you don't find yourself inadvertently powering up that, dysfunctional side of things. It just kind of takes care of itself. Yeah,
absolutely. So we've got a couple of things that you can look into. First of all, on School, we have a Money River Masters community where a lot of the material is already laid out there. There's some bite-sized tutorials. You can just work your way through that. There's even a little Kickstarter Magic Money Makeover, it's called. You can get in there and have a look at some of the material there and start to apply it to your life. Just, a few minutes each day to get going. And but you'll also see in there that there is the bigger version. There's the whole Money River itself. How does it work? How does it come together? What are the mindset, the principles that are most important, or the universal laws that could apply to, well, they do apply, but how they would apply to you in your life, and shifting your wealth thermometer hopefully in the upward direction. So we'll put the link to the school in the description below. And if you're around on April 29th, and this is in 2026, so the date may have already gone past, but we have a flow intensive wealth workshop going on, and we'll put some of the link details in the description. If it's not there, it means you missed the boat. But do keep an eye out, because we will have more of these workshops coming up over time. Because even though our work primarily is with entrepreneurs and business owners in their relationships, this is one of the key facets that we know demands its own little space, doesn't it? It really does, because it's such an important thing when it comes to relationships. But we also realize that it's important to get this out into the world, because who doesn't want to have a higher thermostat when it comes to wealth and abundance and freedom and choice? Yeah.
It's super important. It affects everything. So
it really does. Yeah. So in the meantime, if you even just click subscribe and follow for us here on YouTube, that's also very helpful, not only for us, but for you because you will get the benefit of seeing the material as we release it. And if you haven't met us, I'm Linda.
I'm Craig.
And our company is called True North. So we'll see you around.
See you soon.
All right. Bye.